think we're good. I don't know. Are we good? It says we're 10 seconds just sitting here. Okay, we're technically live. Welcome to our live stream at Living in Fort Wayne. I brought a special guest today. It's actually my first client that I've ever helped move across the country all the way to Fort Wayne, Indiana. We talked last week, Dustin, about some things that you've experienced that you've been here. I think it's been what, like 10 years? Or wait, no, you've been here like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
2 years. And so I was like, well, I think it'd be pretty cool for like people to like hear the firsthand account of somebody who lived here, went through that transition, and just tell what their experiences were. So, Dustin, thank you for joining me this evening and sharing your experience. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You don't have to get in too much detail, but and then just tell us why you came out to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Well, I am mostly a West Coaster. That's where I've spent most of my existence. And I think if you live there for enough time, you just kind of get acclimated to things and you don't realize that there's places like Fort Wayne out there. And so when the time came that I finally had prepared enough to buy a place and settle down, I had already been declared disabled. And so I had time on my hands to do the research, and I did plenty. And I was looking for a certain niche. I was looking for of course, cost of living as a consideration, and housing costs, um, all the things that are going to matter long term for somebody settling down, especially if they're on a fixed income. And my research at the time um, revealed that it came down to the top two choices with all the research that I did. And first choice was a city in Idaho. But at the time, the wildfires in the West and the finances of those states had driven a lot of people to already start moving. And it was a bit of a mass exodus at the time. And I knew that the housing market was going to be way too competitive in the number one slot, but not close or not far behind the number one slot. Lo and behold, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And for so many reasons. And so I started searching YouTube and looking for the best realtors, and that landed me in your care, which was awesome. Um, and after you and I started talking, it wasn't long before I decided I just wanted to be here to look at houses rather than do the 3D viewing of the house demos and stuff. So I came here, stayed in an extended stay hotel with the money I had available, and just started looking at houses with you. Poor Frankie had COVID at the time.
Oh wow,
I
yeah,
felt horrible. I was showing up when she had COVID.
I forgot
But
about that.
anyway, and I also, part of my research too was when was the best time to buy. So you probably remember I came off season to Fort Wayne, and that's when the housing prices were at the best at the time. And I forced you to show me houses in like 16 degrees at times, but you did, and we found this place, and everything since being here is dramatically better for someone in my situation. Um,
So,
and I can
so
expound on all those reasons.
yeah, before we get into all the reasons, and just a quick recap, if you're just joining in, we're talking about talking with one of my clients, my very first client ever that found us on YouTube and that asked us to help him move over. It was a lifelong dream of his, and I wanted to bring him on this live stream to tell people who are thinking about moving to Fort Wayne. And even if you are here in Fort Wayne, you guys probably already know some of this stuff. But so we have a transplant here, but I always say my story. I tell the story all the time. When I discovered Fort Wayne, um, yeah, it was for a job, and I'd never heard of the city. And I was actually kind of shocked because I moved around a lot in my life. I feel like I know most of the cities. If I did not know the city, it was probably like a irrelevant city. But I was like, wow, this city's about the same size as the city I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, and everything about it on paper seemed pretty good. And but when I moved here, it um, turned out to be a little bit better than I expected. To be honest, I didn't have like I'm thinking, okay, we're moving away from friends and family, and I was mid-career at the time, and I was like, wow, I don't really know. I was kind of ready to settle down. So there's a lot of uncertainty, as you know. I'm pretty sure you went through the same thing where you're just like, okay, you got to step out there on faith and just do the best you can. Start to do your research, like you said. I don't think I even found much information online prior to moving here. It was very little, to be honest. And so that when I transitioned into real estate, I thought, man, this is the thing that I think about all the time. Like, I bet you there's tons of people out there looking for affordable places to live because after the pandemic, like you talked about, um, we didn't know that the home prices were going to go up, and we didn't know that, the interest rates and all this stuff like that. But I mean, you moved at a pretty good time. So after you got here, so your situation, you said my situation, and you don't have to get in too much detail, but being, retired and then disabled, it was mandatory. You really needed a place where you could live comfortably and fit your lifestyle. And after you got here, um, tell us about that.
So yeah, I think if you were to, and I have asked a number of the people that I consider family and that care about me that are still on the West Coast in California. I've asked them, so do you think there's a place in the country today where a person could exist on $1,500 to $1,800 per month and be okay, own a house? And their answer would be no, because they're acclimated to where they're at, right? But you can't. And Fort Wayne is one of those few places in the country, as far as my research shows, where you can live and be okay as a fixed income person. And those numbers that I mentioned, I do live within that. And I own my home. I have a car. I have internet. I do fine here. And I think the biggest thing when whether your situation be that you are disabled, and I'm only 53, so it happened to me pretty early. But for other people in other situations that also have a lot of concerns that come with it, like healthcare, the healthcare is excellent here. The Parkview system has been amazing to me here. But above and beyond that, everyone that has to live this life has to consider where they're getting their healthcare from because of the financial end of it. And that has been wonderful here. To be perfectly honest, since I've been here, the only medical bill that I've ever got ended up being a mistake. I haven't had medical bills here. Whereas living on the West Coast in 3 different states, I just kept piling up medical debt. The finances in those states, not so great. And so people do have to pay a lot of their own healthcare costs. Here, I haven't faced that. And it's been an amazing place to just recover and live okay life and not have as many worries.
Right. And that's honestly something that when you're younger, you don't think about, like, oh, your
You
health.
don't.
Right. Yeah. And
You
so,
don't.
and honestly, I didn't, I like, we had the conversation and I really didn't know the extent of it. And I know you were telling me about, like, programs, when you're like, oh yeah, you had this particular healthcare program. So when you moved over, you were able to, like, it afforded you to do all these other things. And then once you moved into the house, you were telling me about this other program. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of any of those programs, but I'm really happy that you were, you afforded that, especially being, given the situation, so that, that you can live comfortably. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. When you're living in a state where the state has its finances together, it really shows in important ways. Um, for instance, I was able to get in on a program they offered, and of course, this is always subject to availability at the time, but through the LIHEAP program, where people who have older houses that are in need of an updated weatherization, whether it be your insulation or how the house is heated or cooled. And if you're in a certain situation like being disabled or financially challenged for other reasons, um, you can apply for the program, and if accepted, it's a pretty lengthy waiting period. I think I waited 6 months on this one, but the program came through, replaced all the insulation in my house to something modern. And then instead of being stuck with old baseboard heating or anything like that, they put in a mini split system and my power and utilities costs literally dropped to a third of what they used to be.
Wow.
That makes a huge difference in the life of people who are challenged by disability or whatever their challenge may be that makes it so they have to live on less. Another program through healthcare here. And again, this is all subject to availability at the time, but there was a program through the healthcare systems where if the person's bathroom was of a certain age in an older house or had too tall of a bathtub and the person living there is disabled, all kinds of reasons, there was money available to redo the bathroom entirely and make it a place where, as you progress into worse health, you have a bathroom that you can use and you're fine. And it's not as dangerous. You're not as at risk for falls and things like that. It's especially helpful for people who are worse off than myself, even that are in power chairs or wheelchairs or things like that. They widen the door so that the person can get through if they have to use walking assistance. That money is available there. And I can tell you, in the other states that I lived in out west, that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. Those kind of funds weren't available.
Yeah, sorry about all this dinging. My my partner, I don't know. You've seen our channel, and Caleb, he's like, hey, this and that, and so he's kind of distracting me. Sorry about that. I need to turn my phone off, but yeah, no, I'm actually super happy about that. Like I'm always happy to hear from my past clients and seeing how they're doing, and especially just giving the circumstances. And I did not know some of that stuff. Like I'm just like, well, I'm a real estate agent and I can like help find a house, and I know it's more affordable than the average place. And then we have actually a lot of people, and I remember when we were searching for houses, you're like, well, yeah, you thanked me for the help, but you also were, the price point. We treat everybody exactly the same.
Yes.
Because, there's this old saying that people say. They say you're perfectly positioned to help people that you once were, or in a place that you once were, right? So I'm not a fancy person, right? But so I will help anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what your what your situation is. It's like, okay, well, if I can help you, and obviously if we have the time, and so since then we do get a couple of people who I'm working with a guy right now. He's in Florida. He's got a fiance, and the cost of living there is too high, and he's right on the margin, a little bit higher than where your price point was, but home prices have gone gone up, so you can't, we can't find houses for the same prices what we purchased your house for, as you know. But so I'm just, we keep beating that drum to tell people, hey, listen, if you want to, if home ownership is something that is important to you, then this is a potential place for you. And then also the second thing that we were going to talk about, it's kind of hard for me to translate to people like what it's like, especially if you live in a different area of the US, right? So we moved from Texas. We actually had, I think we're talking to 3 people from Arizona, as a matter of fact. I told you that earlier today. I was like, what's up with Arizona? And I think there's an Arizona-Indiana connection, which you wouldn't think, it seems like, but they were telling me today, I didn't check the weather, but 110 is the high there today.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we're done with that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, if you want to live in a state where the sun is actively trying to kill people, live in Arizona.
Yeah. And
the last summer I was there, 118.
Yeah, that was one of the high. Well, so that's the other thing too, like in that particular area. So Arizona, it's like 30 straight days of 100 plus, highs. Like, and I don't even think we did not hit 100 this year,
Right.
But yeah, so since you moved here from that region, from the West Coast, what are some of the differences like you've experienced, good, bad, and different about like living in Northeast Indiana?
Well, in my 2 years, I think the only bad I can even mention is the condition of some of the roads, the construction and work that's being done on the roads, and the condition of the roads as they are, whether they're being worked on or not. And again, most of this is not direct routes; it's the outlying roads. there's quite a few of them where the roads can be in better condition. But I don't know. I have a hard time complaining about that too, because I lived in some states on the West Coast where their roads weren't exactly any better, and sometimes it took a long time for the city or the state to even address them. So, I mean, at least here they're working on them. I've lived in places where that money run pretty short, and they didn't get worked on, and roads stayed damaged for a lot longer. I've seen roads already fixed here since I've lived here, uh, where a similar situation back home probably, I don't know, they might still be damaged.
Right, right.
But
They're working on it.
yeah, you can see the progress. You can see they're trying, and they're spending on it. Um, the good things, that's a lot. There's a lot of good things. You have all seasons here. And yes, it does get a little cold sometimes, but again, I lived in the very northern end of California for quite some time, and that's very green up there. It got a lot colder and nastier in some of those seasons up there. So I can't even really complain about that. I saw a lot more ice and issues with bad weather and things in some of the places I lived in California. Um, and the traffic here, it's funny. If you've lived here a long time, and you're probably aware of this, and like in one of Caleb's videos, he was mentioning one of the reasons why people leave is because of traffic. Um, I having come from a lot of the bigger areas out west, and smaller ones, I'm sorry, the traffic here is not that bad. I'm used to far worse than
Right.
anything I've ever seen here. Um, I, I, yeah, I just can't complain about the traffic. It's nice not having highway overpasses all over the place. It's nice being able to get somewhere within 5 to 10 minutes. So, I mean, that was an improvement for me. If you live out in West California, Reno, Nevada, those kind of places, you see real bad traffic out there. So here in Fort Wayne, no, it's not so bad.
I
It's
will
pretty.
say, there. You're right. I mean, it's kind of. I just think if you live here and if you maybe you don't travel and you're not used to like the day to day of actually living, because you might travel to Detroit or Chicago and you're like, oh, the traffic's bad, but like actually living in a city every day with bad traffic. I mean, I think the first time I ever ran into really bad traffic, I was living in Dallas, and I mean, there's you knew like you had to be aware of the time of day. Like you'd be like you get up, grab your keys, and then you're like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. Yeah, I'm gonna sit back down because you knew you're like, well, there's I can base I'll you would leave at 4, and if you need to go somewhere, you like I would get there probably at the same time if I just leave at 6. Like you know what I mean? Because you're gonna be fighting traffic all the way there, fighting traffic all the way back. You might as well just take 2 hours, do something else, and
Yeah.
then you cut down the commute, right? Um, and so living with that on a day-to-day basis is kind of annoying. I will say did you see that one video where we went and asked people like what they thought about Fort Wayne? Did you see
Yeah,
that one?
I'm so glad you did that, because you're really good at just talking to people on the spot. I'm glad you expressed the passion to do it. I'm so glad you did it.
Yeah, well, it's funny. We went to I forgot to tell you about the Johnny Appleseed was last weekend. Did you go?
I didn't. I couldn't. No.
Oh man, I should have brought you some chicken and dumplings, but we were out there. We did it. We'll have a video coming out about that too. But I was with Caleb, so Caleb's the kind of the guy doing all that. But behind the scenes, I was like, hey, I was the one like, hey, really quick, because So I do have a natural knack for that kind of thing. I will say about the traffic is that so now because Fort Wayne is building, I live on the north side of town. I still having. You're coming to my house this year, by the way. We're
Okay.
making it happen. You got to have to come on up here. But so because they're building so much, I am starting to be the local. Like now I am starting to get a little annoyed because I am used to just going without having to hit my brakes for anything but a stop sign or a red light. And if I'm stopped, I'm starting to and I think that's what people are saying when they say that they're annoyed. There's literally never been a reason to stop or slow down ever. And recently there's more slowing down. And so that is what people are saying when they say
It's more than what they're used to.
yeah, it's more than what's compared to what it was. And it's so funny because I found myself getting a little agitated, and I was like, how long do you have to stay in a place before you become a local? Because I'm like, I think I'm I think I'm crossing that threshold that I'm officially considered a local. I'm no longer a transplant. You know what I mean? So Caleb said something about me being good looking. So yeah, no. So the traffic is one of the things, but it's a testament to the growth of the city. I think we're going to hit. I don't know. They said by 2035 we'll be at like, I don't know. I think 300,000 at that point. But I
Wouldn't
don't
be
know. I
wrong.
just know that I got here now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's to see it to grow the way that it is. There was one last question I wanted to ask you, but I forgot. It, it wasn't
But
why haven't you come to visit? Because I tried to come see you once, but then I know time kind of got out. We were supposed to go out to eat. Have you checked out any of the restaurants that I recommended? Last time I talked to you, you said you hadn't.
you mentioned a steakhouse. Now I want to go.
Copper
I haven't
Spoon.
I haven't been to a really good steakhouse since I've been in Fort Wayne. I want to go.
Yeah, I think it was either Talone or Copper Spoon. I don't know if Talone's considered an actual steakhouse, but yeah, we got to get you out more often. I know you're on a fixed income. We invited you out, but you bailed on us. And I didn't take it personal, but yeah, I was really looking forward to it. And I was like, all right, well, he just don't want to hang out with us no more. Now that he got,
No, I am always part of the stuff that's wrong with me is I am prone to fatigue spells, and so when I have a day when those fatigue spells pop on, I don't even drive. So I probably bailed because of one of my bad days, but
right.
we'll make it happen. I can't stay away from a good steakhouse at least every once in a while. I can't afford it often, but I have to have a good steak every once in a while.
That's what it was. I wanted to ask you about being downtown because you live closer to downtown. And that's another one that I hear from people, even locals sometimes, they're like, well, I want to be downtown in it. And I always think, I'm like, have you ever been to like some of these other cities where like you literally will not get gas there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh yeah, Caleb said Baker Street. I don't recommend Ruth Chris because it's a chain, and I don't want to support chain restaurants. So Baker Street is a good one. We actually took my wife there for one of our anniversaries. But yeah, Baker Street. But yeah, so living downtown, how is that compared to like is it too big, too small? You feel safe?
So, on my street, or near my street for the past 2 years I've been here, there was one serious police incident in all 2 years. And it wasn't even, as I recall, it wasn't even because of a local thing. There was something happened because some people coming through the area decided to do something they shouldn't do. Um, I don't have a bunch of police sirens bothering me all the time. I don't have a bunch of crime on my street, and yet I'm in an affordable house. You compare that to other cities, it just doesn't happen. Usually, if you're in, for instance, I'll just be straightforward with you about what my mortgage cost is $384 a month. Okay. You find that almost nowhere. Okay. Even back when I came here. All right. And usually, if you live at that price range, you're in an area that you don't like to be. I just don't have a lot of complaints about where I am. It's a peaceful street. I love the multicultural nature of all of my surroundings and my neighbors. There's such cool families here. And even if a house goes vacant for a while or somebody doesn't take care of it, it's usually not long before that changes. And some of the houses around here they've made look really neat. um, but yeah, I can't stress enough that I really want people to know that there's places in the country still where you can live on the kind of income that I have, uh, and you'll be fine. You can. I'm not going to pipe dream anybody and say, well, if you have a lot of bad habits, you'll still be okay. No, if you don't get your money sense together, if you don't get your spending under control, you're still going to have problems. But if you find that discipline and you find yourself in a space of life like where I am now, and let's face it, we're not going backwards, we're going forwards. Everyone is going to meet those challenges at some point or another. And you need to know there's a place you can be where you're going to be okay. And Fort Wayne is one of those places you can choose when those times in your life happen. The healthcare is good, you'll be taken care of. The price range of the places that you have choices in living in, you're going to be okay. These kind of places still exist. I'm proof that they work. All right. Like I said earlier, I'm in that fixed income price range where I live between $1,500 and $1,800 per month most of the time, and I'm okay. I'm fine. If you just have some life disciplines, you don't gamble, you don't drink excessively, all the normal things that would normally cause a person to spend out on a regular basis. If you avoid those things and find happiness in things that are genuine, you're going to be fine. Coming living in a place like this.
Well, I appreciate you being candid about the price of your mortgage because I actually don't know. I just know the price of the house that you bought, and I don't remember. Like I didn't remember the mortgage payment. I mean, you just forget about it after a while. But I mean, that is. And if anybody's still watching this, I cannot guarantee that you'll find a house at that price point.
Right.
For
Yeah,
that amount of month. But when you compare it to other places that across the country, it does. There's a lot of sticker shock with
dramatically different. Yeah.
right. And when you look at these other places, you know, I part of the reason I almost feel like I might get stuck here myself because you know, every time I go to visit other places, even Lubbock, Texas, which is a slightly bigger than here, is 300,000 people, just over 300,000 people, I think. And some of the homes, I'm like, oh, how much is that house? I always, do that when driving through, and I'm like, okay, I'll check out the home prices. And I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't pay for that. But that is how much it costs at that point, at that time. So, so people are still looking for, compared to everywhere else, prices in all the other places have gone up. Prices have gone up here too. They're still less than where they are there, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Dramatically so in most places.
And the community too, is, I love how you shared that. If you're just now tuning into the live stream, I'm here with the very first client that ever contacted me from watching our YouTube videos. He was doing his research, and that's always how it starts. A lot of everything starts online. Like I think every day I sit down and I had a thought, like I made my daughter Google anthropology today, right? And it was like, hey, do you know the definition of anthropology? Back in the day when I was young and I asked my mother a question, I had to pull out a dictionary, right? But you can pull out your phone and then Google things. And so a lot of people, I don't know how exactly, and I didn't know this was going to happen at the time, but people were looking for affordable places to live, like literally that phrase. And then maybe there was an article or something, and Fort Wayne was on that list. As I said before, me moving to Fort Wayne, not knowing that, 2019, and I started looking at houses, and I'm like, how much is that house? Wow. I actually kind of almost regret not buying a bigger house, because the bigger house that I would have purchased would have went up more in price, and I would have more equity in my home, but I didn't need it. Like it was like, well, it was almost like we went back in time a little bit. Like there was enough homes where I could decide to buy a house. I'm like, well, I can buy a bigger house, but I don't even need it. If that makes sense. You cannot do that now. Like most people have to, we call it the real estate triangle. So if you're looking for amenities, so we have a lot of bigger families that are looking for 4-bedroom, 2 full baths, 2-story home with a full finished basement because they have kids, right? Well, and they want it in a good school district. Well, you can't get that for under a certain amount of money, right? You just can't, and long gone are the days that you can just have an abundance of homes that are super affordable. You know what I mean? That's unfortunate, but the good thing is a lot of people that do move here, whether they're moving here remotely from a remote job. We had 2 people move from Denver, and they had a fixed income, or not really fixed income, but they had their job, so they can transfer the job. Where they were living in an apartment. So same income, moved over to Fort Wayne, and their quality of life got better. And so I just think I don't know when I'm going to stop, ringing the bell on that and just saying like how fortunate it is to be in the Northeast. And I'll say this, and I'll be done with my rant. With Fort Wayne is one of the few cities in the Midwest that has seen an increase in population, because the Midwest, I think a lot of people, from what I'm reading, the loss of manufacturing jobs, and then you have the snowbirds, like the older people retire, they go down south. I think it's us in Hamilton County, or one of the counties just north of Indy, the only 2 counties in the Midwest. So that would include Michigan, Illinois, and Indiana. I don't want to include Ohio because I think there's a couple counties in Ohio, but I mean that says a lot about Fort Wayne, Indiana. Some good stuff. So anyway, we should do one funny thing before I leave because I love talking to you. We talk for every time I call you, we talk for like an hour.
About, yeah, at least.
Like we talk about an hour on I'm gonna ask you a trivia question. Okay? Because I like trivia. You like trivia?
Yes.
Yeah. So we just started doing trivia. They up here there was a bar called Tez. They just closed it down, and we the first time we went, we got second place. All the 50 states, which state gets the most rain? You actually probably would know this, actually.
Which state gets the most rain?
Yeah. You probably know this one.
By popular opinion, whether it be the scientific answer or not, by popular opinion, probably Washington, Seattle, Washington.
Oh man, you're wrong. Everybody says Washington. Hawaii.
People will anyone who's lived there, anyone who's been there, complains about how rainy it is in Washington.
No, not Washington.
But
it's Hawaii.
if I were to take a second guess, I would say Oregon.
Still wrong. I actually already said it. I already said it. I think you didn't hear me. I already gave you that. It's Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii. Oh, God. You wouldn't think, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Everybody, like, I feel like everybody forgets that state exists. It is there.
It's an island.
It's the rainbow state. So you got to get rain to have rainbows. It's a very, very rainy state. So Fort Wayne, actually, Indiana's actually in the middle of the road for almost everything. So we get about 22 out of the 50 states. That's how much rainfall the last time I checked. So right in the middle, right there. So that's actually pretty interesting. I didn't think about that. Moving from Texas, obviously Arizona, certain parts of Southern California, well, maybe not Southern California, but Arizona, some parts of Colorado, hardly get any rain. I mean, I think when it's summertime, we don't even have to mow the grass that much because it's dead. It's dead, and it costs too much money to pay for the water bill to have grass. I know in Arizona they don't even have grass. A lot of times they just have like the rocks and the cacti, right?
Oh yeah, you can actually get in trouble for your water usage in Arizona. Like you're not supposed to wash your own car. You have to take it somewhere to be washed where they use reclaimed water. You can't wash your own car in your own driveway. There's a lot of things like that living in other places that you don't know about. You get there and it's a bummer. 4th of July in Northern California, since the wildfires, you can't set off fireworks anymore in a lot of places. It's against the law now. You can't buy them. Pretty sad.
Yeah, see, it's little stuff like that you don't think about. Like, I didn't even think about that as far as like and they do. I mean, I don't know about your neighborhood, but I know my neighborhood, it'd be a random day. If it's the 4th of July, I guarantee you, just randomly in August, there's going to be people just setting off fireworks for no reason because they have leftover fireworks and the kids are out of school and, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, the water thing is, I'm actually, again, I complained about it when I first got here because I cut my grass and I was like, I cut my grass. And then like the next week I needed to cut it again. I was like, what? I was so upset.
We do live in an interesting biome. I have to say that the grass grows here better than anywhere I've been so far. It's pretty amazing how often you have to use your mower.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is my least favorite activity. I know most people love to cut their grass. Most guys I know love to cut their grass. I hate cutting my grass.
I don't. I don't want to cut.
My neighbors.
My situation is different, but
well, my neighbor started cutting my grass just so because he wants to do the diagonal line thing. So it's just easier for him to keep going into my yard or whatever, and I just pay him. Plus, he has a mowing company, and then but I'm patiently waiting on that time of year. So end of August, like now, it's probably September. I actually don't know Caleb, if you're still online, when do you stop mowing your grass? Because I think it's supposed to be. I think you're supposed to mow it even still now because it doesn't stop growing until we hit a certain temperature or something. I'm not exactly sure, but for me, mid September, I'm done.
And if you it's something that I had to consider, that you get when you start getting health challenges, like part of my issues are spine issues. And so when it came to the idea of mowing my grass, it was like, am I gonna have to pay for this? Is there any way I could do it myself? um, get yourself an electric mower. They have 75% less moving parts, and if you get an electric lawnmower, it weighs almost nothing. On a good day, when my spine's not acting up, I can mow my grass. And I got that electric mower on Amazon, I think, for $120.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want
one of,
the. I
one of
saw
those
something.
considerations. Yeah.
I saw something a couple years ago. I forgot about it, but they got the the Roomba that sweeps.
Yeah, yeah. They
Well,
have them for lawns. Yeah.
they got the ones that mow your grass,
Yep.
and they have there's some type of thing where you have to set it like an invisible fence so it knows not to go over
Yeah.
the sidewalk and everything.
Yeah.
I've seen them, and I'm not gonna buy one because I feel like it's like when Tesla first came, or the electric car first came out. I'm like, all right, let's just wait a little bit till so they work out the kinks or whatever. But I can't wait to have. And then they have like a little docking station on the side of the house for the electric mower,
Yeah.
or for the what would you call it? An Alexa mower? I don't know.
You could. I actually researched those because, of course, it's part of the things that's good about being retired. You have time to research things. But when I started thinking about cutting the grass and my spine issues and stuff, I actually researched those. And unfortunately, if you have too much roll in your lawn, if you have too many changes in elevation, they don't work so well. So
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, but anyway, I just got to man up. I'm still young enough. I can cut my lawn, but I just need to stop being a you know what. But anyway, man, I really appreciate you again. I just want to say thank you for, I mean, literally the first person I ever helped move here, and I was super excited about it. And there's some other stuff I wanted to tell you. I'm not going to tell you on live about when you first came here, but I was very, it's kind of scary a little bit when because I think that a lot of times when people see the videos and stuff, they're like, okay, these guys just want, clients and everything like that. But I mean, there's some trepidation by us as well, right? Because we don't know that person. And so the first time that you go to, we're adults, but at the same time, you kind of you're trying to fill them out. And I think that's the other part of the YouTube channel that is kind of what we're essentially doing is we're telling our story a little bit, we're telling a little bit about ourselves, and essentially something about what you see will resonate, right? And they say your vibe attracts your tribe. So that's the thing. Like, okay, if someone is compelled to call me, more than likely, there's someone who's kind of like cut from the same cloth. But at the very first time, you're not really sure. You're like, okay, this random person called me that I never saw before in my life, and they want to see a house, right? Like it's a little scary. And so for you being the first one, it was a little bit. I have to admit, I was nervous, to be honest.
Well, you mentioned a number of things about why you do what you do, and it's part of why I chose you guys in your group. I instantly noticed a sense of sort of accountability, where you're not just about money. And even though I was a low budget customer coming in with what I had, you never treated me like that, and I had been treated like that, and that means that you're dealing with good people. They know they're not going to make a ton of money off of you as an individual, but they're helping you the same as if you had $1 million. And that meant the world to me. And you've heard me say it before, but thank you for helping me find my sanctuary. I needed it and I deserved it after everything that's happened and I've been through.
Absolutely.
And you do things for reasons beyond what most realtors, I think, would. And I was very grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're both thanking each other. We're like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, who's gonna blink first? And then and usually, actually, at the time, my wife, she's like even sweeter. I can tell you, she's like the sweetest person. It's ridiculous. It's just so sweet. So anyway, all right, we're coming up on 40 minutes. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you guys learned a little bit. If you have been watching some of our other videos, or maybe you watch some of our other lives, maybe you learned something today. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and happy hump day. All right, Dustin, I'll call you later.